I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like I'm on top of the world.
Disclaimer, you will not be transported to the top of the world. In the unlikely event you find yourself at the Arctic Circle, seek shelter from the elements immediately to avoid frostbite and or hypothermia. Geico will not be responsible if you find yourself in a cave or crevasse with a lonely abominable snowman, who in all likelihood will force you to play games including but not limited to Go Fish, charades, Chinese checkers, or his personal favorite, Red Rover, send Yeti on over. Geico is not liable for any damages, either physical or emotional.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Archangels, ghosts, and Bigfoot. Oh my. It's just another night for Supernatural Girls. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Here's your host, paranormal researcher Patricia Baker, on the one, the only Supernatural Girls.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Supernatural Girlz Radio. I'm your host, Patricia Baker, and I am here with my co-host, Patricia Kirkman, PK, all the way from sunny Tucson. How are you tonight, PK?
Fabulous. I've been suntanning all day. It's just been such a beautiful day.
Jealous. My God, it was snowing here. Well, I'm going to have to get used to this because, you know, we're coming into winter eventually, and you're going to have all the good weather. So that's how it is. Just how it is.
We're doing a flip side. You had it gorgeous throughout the summer as we
That's right.
felt like a pig on a spit here.
I know. I remember. I remember how hot it was. Just about, I thought it could combust. It got that hot, but thank God you didn't. So I got to say, I am haunted by last week's interview with Marjorie and Carl Higdon, aren't you?
They were absolutely fabulous.
Fabulous.
What a delight. What a delight. Married for 59 years. That is a delight in itself.
That's amazing in this day and age. Just such a beautiful couple. I just love them to pieces. But an amazing story. I think one of the best UFO abduction stories of all time. And I can't thank them enough for coming on the show. I know it wasn't easy. You saw how emotional Carl got being on the show and recounting all of this. But if anybody in our audience missed it, you can go back to our Facebook page. I've got the links listed there for audio and also audio and video if you want to watch it. But incredible, incredible story from 30 plus years ago. Got very little press, but certainly one of the most dramatic, absolutely dramatic, and real proof, too. The bullet. Definitely. The truck, the TB scars gone. I mean, the medical records, all of this adds up to one big abduction.
Well, not only that, but the nice thing about it is she's writing the book about it. And that's going to be coming out soon, too.
Yes. And we'll have him back on the show.
Oh, yeah.
That book is done because it was just amazing. But I had to say something about it because it's never left me. That was such a powerful, powerful experience hearing about all of this from them. So what do we got going on for numbers this week?
Well, we're going to make it very easy. The month itself is all about creativity, communications of all forms. That's key to everything. But the creative side, if you stop and think about it, Christmas is coming. Why not take your creative juices? This is a perfect time to bake something, do something, put things together, do your shopping, look for people's gifts that you want that are unique and different, because your mind is really going to all these great areas to make something that's different, not the same old stuff. It's got to be bright, colorful, and pull people together. Besides that, it'll keep them from saying things that they probably shouldn't.
Uh-oh. So it's like, don't open your mouth and stick your foot in it.
You can open it,
kind of thing.
But pray that keep out of the gossip side. Just stay on the tried and true.
Yeah, straight and narrow path, everybody.
That's right. Straight arrow works.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, I have to say also, we've got a wonderful guest coming up tonight.
Yes, we do.
A friend of yours. This is Paige Valdiserri, that has written a book. which is called The Red Bag. And we're going to have her on in a few minutes.
And for those that want to take a look at it, this
there's
is
the beautiful book.
Yes.
Intriguing title and cover. We got to find out all about this from Paige and her experiences. We're going to get into this tonight. It's going to be very, very interesting.
Yes,
and
it will.
Before we do, we've got a couple of paranormal stories people should check out on our Facebook page. Mm-hmm. One of my favorites, somebody wrote about the hellhounds. And we were talking about this earlier today. I love the hellhound stories. I think they're phenomenal. And this one that's on our Facebook page, it's from Appalachia, the Hellhounds of Appalachia. And as I mentioned, there was a Paranormal Witness television show about hellhounds in Palm Springs, of all places. And these older gentlemen came out and said, this is what happened. I mean, they were totally credible witnesses. Their cars were torn to shreds. It was like something with metal teeth dug into their cars and ripped them apart. They saw these things. They said they were enormous and they had glowing eyes, and they were just, it was exactly what people describe for hellhounds. So it's a very, very interesting story. That's on our Facebook page, as well as this boy from Russia. What did you think about that?
I thought that was absolutely fascinating. Paige, you would relate to this young man because from birth, he knew he was from someplace else. He felt he was born in Mars. And the things that he could tell people and how he would relate to it. There again, Patricia has posted that for us. But
yes, it's on Facebook and on our Facebook page, Supernatural Girls with a Z. And it's a video. You can just, watch this video with this young man. And the things he has to say about Mars are very intriguing. I think he's the real deal. I indeed. I mean, talking about how Mars had a cataclysm, everybody went underground. And certainly some of what the rover has sent back would say that this is in fact true. They've uncovered openings and tunnels. And this is what this young man talked about at a very young age.
Age 4, I believe. Wasn't it age 4? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's 20 now, so this is long before Rover. So it's two fascinating stories on Facebook. Be sure to go there, give us a like and a follow, so that you make sure that you keep in touch with us with all these great stories. Mm-hmm. Now, one other thing we've got coming up I want to mention, because we don't usually do this. We don't usually do a health show. And this is going to be great. We are going to be doing a health show that we're going to pre-record because our fearless producer is going on vacation.
You may never see him, but he's going to be gone.
May not, but he's taken off for parts unknown. Maybe Mars. I don't know. And so we are going to pre-record a show with an amazing practitioner. His name is Robert Abatello, and he is from Florence, Massachusetts. He treats autoimmune disease and Lyme, which we know a lot of people are being affected by today. He's an acupuncturist, a naturopath. He works heavily with German homeopathics, which are very powerful, but he has a whole different perspective on these two illnesses, how it's affecting us, how we need to treat it, and I want everybody to have a chance to hear from him. I call him the magician because I send people to him in this area, and they do very well with his treatments. They actually get back to the business of living, which a lot of people can't do when they have autoimmune or Lyme. But here's the thing. It's a pre-recorded show, so I'm asking everybody to post your questions now. If you post your questions on my other Facebook page, which is called The Real Zombie Plague, that's The Real Zombie Plague on Facebook. You can post any questions you want us to ask on your behalf. We will ask Robert for you. The show will air November 22nd at our usual time. But again, it will be a pre-recorded show, so we won't be able to interact with you live on the air like we normally do. But I just had to get Robert on because he is a genius at figuring out what these horrible illnesses are about and a right path of action so that you can feel better. So if you know anybody afflicted with that, either one of those diseases, those illnesses, then send them to The Real Zombie Plague to write down their questions, and we'll ask Robert for you. It's going to be a very exciting show. So make sure to tune in on November 22nd. And let's see, what else do we have going on? I think that about covers it. What do you think, PK?
I think the next thing going on is introducing our guest.
Yeah, but real quick, I just want to say, as we're coming into the holidays, if you want to give an interesting gift, because this is what PK was talking about, doing a different kind of gift, get the number.
Punish me.
Punish me, I forgot.
Well, firstly, you need to be out front more too, because of your dream interpretation, and your readings that you do are phenomenal.
That's right. If you need tarot card readings or dream interpretation, contact me on our website, supernaturalgirls.com, or contact Patricia. She's also on our website, and she has her own, patriciakirkman.com. So, yeah, 2 different kinds of gifts that you can give your loved ones or yourselves. So make sure to check that out. And now, let me tell you about our guest. She's so interesting.
Yes. Good one.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to read this, okay? Paige is an internationally recognized traumatic stress and integrative healing consultant. And she talks about her entire journey in this book that she just wrote. It's very interesting, called The Red Bag. Now, what she's going to share with us is all about her gifts. That's a beautiful book. She has had since birth. And she came into this life with being in touch with ETs. At the age of 4, she had the ability of traveling outside of the earthly realm. Her gifts are many. So she works with lots of different interdimensionals in her healing and other things. She's going to find out who she works with. And she says she came into human form with inner wisdom and knowing. And she also has the ability to take people through portals, which, portals are a big thing for us on our show, for their body, for connection and closure for those that have transcended, and bring young people connection with soul families. That's a lot of work to do, huh?
Yes,
so let's bring her on the show. Paige, welcome to the show.
Thank you, you two. You two are quite funny. Quite to watch and how you interact. It's a nice energy. It's a nice energy, actually.
We enjoy it. That's what shows.
You can tell.
That's right. So tell us about you, because I know we've got everybody all excited about listening to how you do the healing that you do, and we've seen your website. You have a lot of modalities that you've been trained in. But you also work with the ETs, with the interdimensionals, and PK and I have been talking to you about that. So how about if we start there? Who do you work with, and how?
Boy, that's a loaded question. That's a big question.
This is what happens when you give me the money.
Right.
Okay.
I'm going to pull back the chain here.
Okay.
I know.
So I guess I can tell you, as you said, Patricia, that I work interdimensionally, and I'm like an emissary in this world. So, whether I'm working with the ETs, the guides, the helpers, the angels, anything that has energy, vibration, a being, a soul, I connect with. So I've learned so many different things about what really happens in form, out of form, shape-shifting, portals, how some of them connect with us here, how we all come from somewhere, right? It's not necessarily where we come from. So we all come from somewhere. And so many people that I speak with are like, that's a new thought for them, which I know for you too, it's not. But because I work with so many different interdimensional beings, I work with them in different ways. So I'm not quite sure where you'd like to go first. I can tell you that it was interesting when you talked about the Russian boy at age 4. I was age 4 when I was laying in my bedroom, and I remember laying there going, you know what? I'm going to remember what it was like not to be in human form. A 4-year-old saying this to themselves. And I'm sure my verbiage was a little different. But so what I did was I just closed my eyes and I remembered where I was before I came into this world, the space that I was in, how it looked. In the first place in space that I was in was very black, very, very black. And at first, it felt very comfortable for me because it was just quiet. It was just vibration. There was not anyone else around. There was nothing around. It was just me in this space and in this place. Then from there were what I saw first, different kinds of angels that would speak to me, talk to me. And then they would take me to different places that, at age 4, I just thought it was, oh yeah, I've lived there, I lived there. And it wasn't until, through my life that I realized where there was, who they were, because they come out now and work with me and speak with me, and they show up with me. They also show up with my clients. They also show up when people come into my life and they're in my space. They'll start to feel things and sense things. For instance, one of my editors in my book, her name is Jan Henriksen, and she's a channeler. And when I met her, she'd heard about ETs, but of course she never had any connection or experience with them before. So she came in my house and we sat outside out back, and she said, "Oh my God," she goes, do you know what's over your house right now?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Do you know what's over my house right now?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, "There's this like disc thing." Mm-hmm. And she said, "I'm starting to see like these long, tall," and she said, beings. And she said, "They look really bluish to me, and they have these big eyes. Do you know that they're there? How long have they been there?" And so I said, "Yeah." I said, "They've been there as long as I've lived in Arizona," which hasn't been that long. It's only been 4.5 years that they've been here. And this is new construction. It's not like there was, houses here beforehand, where I live. And she said, "Wow," she goes, "They're so benevolent. They're just so loving. They're just so kind." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "They work with me in a very different way." Because like, as you said, Patricia, you had, guests on last week talking about their abduction. And with everything that your show does and the people that come in, you hear so many scary stories about what's happened to people and the terror that they've gone through and the fear that they've gone through. I have the flip side of the stories of what I go through with the ETs and what they show me and how clients show up and what they experience. And when clients show up for me with ET experiences, most of them, push them away. They're afraid, they don't want to go there, or they've been in a certain, they were abducted in a certain way, like over a bridge. So anytime that they drive, over bridges, there's sheer terror and fear. They're not sure, what that's from. So when I work with them with that, my whole goal is to kind of show, because this is how I work here with ETs, is to show why the ETs came into their life, what they're trying to show them, how healing is a part of what they're supposed to do here. So I get the clients who have special gifts, who have special talents, and they want to be connected and understand it, but it's scary for them because of what their experiences were. So then I'm able to kind of work with them, with their ETs, with mine, to kind of delve more into that and find the inner wisdom and knowing of, what was that really about? Why did you come here? Where did you come from? Why did they abduct you? What were they trying to teach you? And how can you take that and use it to really make a difference and shift in this world? That's been my work with the clients that I have currently and in the past as well. And I guess I'll stop there for a moment just to see if you have any questions, because I feel like I'm all over the place and there's so many, different things to say and delve into.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed that we were talking about the young man from Russia, age 4, you're mentioning age 4. A few other things I've read about in the past, age 4 keeps coming up. And I'm wondering if there's a connection with the number 4 because it's a base and it's a foundation number, if that has something to do with where it's going.
That's really interesting. Wow, that's really interesting, because I can tell you too, I grew up in a very traumatic home. So, there was violence in the home, and I had to learn how to live, without knowing what was going to happen next. Mm-hmm. And as you say that right now, what comes up for me is you're absolutely right. Because for me, those were places and spaces that I could go and get connected with, because I had definitely had a purpose here. And my purpose has been all around trauma, living in it, teaching it, helping people. But yeah, that was definitely a base and a foundation for me to kind of touch base with, okay, let me just go back to where I was before I came in here and what I kind of knew. Even though I didn't have a full grasp of it at age 4, it's been developed, through the years with all of the different experiences that I've had and the places that I've traveled, and how the land tells so much as well too, from a shamanic component too. So yeah.
Well, like the first time I met you when you came to the house with a friend of ours, the first thing you said was, "Oh, why aren't you talking to these people that are walking alongside your house?" And I'm going, "Okay, fine." And I had known that there were people in the back, but I didn't know that they were on the side of the house as well. And you said they're upset because I ignore them.
Yes.
So I thought, well, so I've made a point of talking with them and such when I go out and meditate. And the last time you were here, you said, oh, they're so happy. Everything's fine and comfortable here now.
Yeah.
And there's a wash behind my house that goes up the road. And the other young lady that Paige has mentioned in her book she's worked with, her name is Phil, also lives on this wash up the road. So the connection here is very strange and very unique watching the two of them in the backyard.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of questions for
Yeah.
you, Paige, just from the chat room that are kind of on target with what you're talking about right now. One is from Gray Being, who's asking, did you ever feel uncomfortable with these beings? Or did you feel automatically like they were harmless?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking that question. So I can tell you one of the first times that they came to me, I was in a hotel room by myself. So of course I was a little taken back and frightened because they tend to come at night, when you're more vulnerable and more open. And there was a room full of them and they really took my breath away. And I wasn't quite sure what was going on until I was like, okay, all right. And what I've learned to do with them is that, and I tell people who go through this a lot, if the ETs come to them, is you just have to talk to them, because what I have found is some of these ETs have once been in human form. Some have never been in human form. Some, they're hybrids here, living right around us. And you have to put the boundaries down with them. So when I have to say to them, you can come in, you can talk. There's things that you want to tell me. There's things that you want me to put out there for you, but you have to remember that things move differently here in this space, in this world versus where you are. So it's really being firm with them and teaching people that talk to them, let them know if you want the experiences. Okay, I'd like for you to come in. I'd like to get connected more, but please know that you have to move in a slow manner, slow pace. This is how I need it. And what I have found for the most part, they're really honoring and respectful of that. Because I have so many clients that come to me who have these experiences in their home at night and they're totally freaked out.
Oh,
so
yeah.
So I kind of give them verbiage as to, here's how you can get connected to them, because you've got gifts. There's information that they want to tell you. There's something that they want you to do. There's something there. So instead of being fearful and pushing it away, here's a way to kind of embrace them and realize that they're not here to hurt you. At least those that I've been around, and I've been around several different forms and kind. So that's what I would say. I hope that answered his question.
Absolutely. And here's one from Stryker, who's asking, do you feel that ETs are the same as angel guides that people have been describing for centuries?
No. And I can say that very firmly. So this is how I distinguish, and I can help distinguish, using some verbiage. The angel guides, they're much more calmer. They're much more gentler. They come in a much lighter way. ETs, they want your attention, and there's things that they need to say, and come on, and can't you move faster, and excuse me, I'm here. And so it's a very different vibration, which I'm sure that you're used to that, both of you. They come in a very different form. So no, I would say absolutely not. It's very clear the difference between those two populations.
Well, we're getting a lot of questions in the chat room, so let me get one more in. I know PK has a ton of questions for you, too.
Yeah.
This is from Redstone, who's asking, I wonder if you were seeing these things as a coping mechanism from your traumatic experiences. Have you ever considered this as a possibility?
Well, seeing that I'm at a trauma therapist by trait, yes, I know all about that. And I know the difference between a coping mechanism, because I knew what my coping mechanisms were growing up as a child, versus connecting to other realms. And in my book, one of the first chapters is a chapter about how I came into this world with a clairvoyant grandmother and a mother who was dying, and how I straddled the different realms through all of this. So it's always been very clear to me the difference between my coping mechanisms from trauma versus my many gifts and my connections with other realms.
Understood.
That makes a big difference when you stop and think about your ability to pull all this together. When you're coming from so many different different corners, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
All these things come back together. It's almost, I'll use the phrase, it's almost like a fruit salad being laid out there. And the more you add to it, the better it gets.
Yeah.
Because how you've worked with people through trauma, you've been a part of the 9/11 disaster area, you've worked with overseas, you've worked with trauma, with young ladies young men being abducted and utilized for brutality in the trafficking of children. And you have been able to cover all these realms with what you know and use your gifts to pull all this together. Which gift do you feel helps direct you the most to keep you on target?
You know, what comes up for me is I go back to my inner knowing of where I've come from. You know, I guess I can explain it this way. You know, you two, when you meet someone who's clairvoyant or psychic, yes, I am clairvoyant, I am intuitive, but I don't consider myself a psychic. I'm very different that way. Mm-hmm. But those types of people will say, well, I get messages and so tells me something. I don't get the messages. I am the message that comes in because of all of the interdimensional beings that I work with. So it's more as if we're colleagues. I know who they are. I just get it. It comes through here. I don't have to have something tell me something. It's hard to explain, but it comes in that way. And, you know, there's been several times when, you know, different ETs will allow me to journey with them. And when I say journey, I mean, you know, leave this realm. And it's, you know, there's an honoring that goes on with this, that there's more that I'd love to see in human form. And I believe that we never see the whole thing and we never know all the pieces, of course. But I always want to see and understand more and more. So when I journey with them, or shall I say they journey with me, I'm always wanting more. And they're always like, okay, we're going to show you this much. You're going to get to experience this much. This is the piece that you need for what's going on, you know, in this world right now, just to understand more. And I can tell you, have you on your show, have you had people come in and talk about, you know, different names of the ETs, I'm sure? Have there been?
Sure.
That happened to
Yes.
too.
Mm-hmm.
So I only know a few of the actual names that they've shared with me. A lot of them I don't have the names for. I just see them and experience them. But I can tell you that when I've traveled with them, the one time was they took me to this place in space, and I was able to see the beginning of this world or planet or whatever you want to call it, and it felt so just natural to me. And the forms that were in front of me when I first saw them were almost like a praying mantis form that was in front of me. Mm-hmm. And then they were trying to explain to me, you know, it was odd because as they were communicating with me, there was no talk like we're talking, but as they were communicating with me, they were communicating with me like I was like a leader of some sort versus just, you know, on their level. So it was very confusing to me. And I thought, okay, this is really weird because I thought that I was here to kind of, you know, learn more. And I finally figured out, oh my gosh, no, I am part of the leadership of this one place. So then this was so great. They allowed me to shapeshift, and I've done this a lot, shapeshift into the form of how I was on that planet as a mantis. So imagine going from human form, I'm going to explain this as best as I can, and shapeshifting where my arms became like, if you think of a praying mantis, you know how they're very thin? They formed into that form, and I can just remember feeling, it's almost like, how do I say this? It's almost like a melting away, a peeling away of the skin, the human arms that turned into this mantis. And I remember looking at my arms and looking at, I'm just going to call them hands for terminology. Mm-hmm. But I remember looking at them going, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I remember feeling like this and having that experience of, okay, this is what this feels like, and understanding, okay, I get it now. Thank you. I remember fully being like this. But here's the catch.
Okay, before you go to the catch, because we're going to do the catch after the break. So everybody's
that's right.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Sorry.
This is definitely a cliffhanger.
So Again, cliffhanger here. We are going to take a very short commercial break, everybody, but stay tuned. We are speaking with Paige Valdiserri. She is the author of a book called The Red Bag, and she is sharing her amazing experiences with us and working with interdimensionals and ETs in her healing practice. This is great stuff, everybody. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to Supernatural Girlz Radio. I am your host, Patricia Baker. I'm here with my co-host, Patricia Kirkman, PK, and our terrific guest tonight, Paige Valdiserri. And again, I just want to remind everybody to please visit the Zombie Plague, the Real Zombie Plague, on Facebook. If you have any questions about autoimmune disease, Lyme disease, leave them there. We're having a special show for all of our listeners on November 22nd, but it will be pre-recorded. So if you have questions, we'll need to get them ahead of time. PK and I will be recording the show with our producer on Friday. So please put your questions there at the Real Zombie Plague on Facebook. But we have a real cliffhanger here. We just left off.
Oh, no, don't make it let go of this massive thing. I don't want to disappoint.
So let's get back to this story. Go ahead, Paige.
Okay, I don't want to disappoint audience. So, yeah, it's just what I've learned so much of, and maybe you have covered this on your show, was just because I could be in mantis form, and that's, one of my forms, I can travel in different places, in different realms, in different forms. So just because if someone comes on and says, well, I'm a mantis or I'm a Arcturian, that doesn't mean you're just that thing. There's so many different places that you can go and shapeshift to, because there's so many different missions and curiosities and purposes, even outside of this realm. So for me, I can shapeshift different places, go to different realms. And I know in the book too, it talks about, being able to know what it's like to die from human form and what that feels like, leaving the body, experiencing that. So just understand that for someone like me, and I'm sure there's others out there like me, that being in mantis form is just one component, one piece of many other different ways to travel and to shapeshift and to help.
The shape-shifting, do you feel that? Is there an intensity that goes with it, or is it just a gradual changeover?
For me, it's very, very gradual. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because you know how we all hear, we're souls in this human form. And, I explained to you what it was like.
Jenny had a dream of joining the national bobsled team. She worked out relentlessly and knew that if she just refused to give up, one day her dream would come true and she'd stand triumphantly up on the podium. But when her kids reminded her that she was 52 and she lived in Texas, and maybe she started dreaming this dream a little late in life, she gave up on not giving up. But then she heard how Geico could save her money on car insurance, so she switched and achieved that dream instead.
Like to, go from human form into, the mantis form. And I've also experienced very clearly often being in human form and knowing what my soul's like and when it can travel. So I'm going to try and explain it to you. The best description that I've been able to explain is imagine your human body having a full Halloween costume on from the top of your head all the way down. And you've got the holes, with the mask. So all the way down. The whole costume is the human body. What's peering out through the holes of the human body is the soul. So I can really feel the difference between being in my flesh and being in my soul. I can be having a conversation with you guys right here, and I can feel when, and this is not disassociation, there's a huge difference between the two. I can feel when I can be in this space with you, being fully present, having conversation, but I can also feel when a part of me goes, okay, time to astral travel. I need to go over here to help this. I need to travel over here. I can't tell you how many times my clients will say to me, okay, so you came to my dream last night, or I was in my office building and you were here and you were telling me this. And so it's very clear to me the difference between the forms that I can kind of shape and shift in. And it's just something that you learn, in human form, through this lifetime. That's how it's been for me. It's not like I came in at age 4 and I'm like, got this. It was, through everything, through my life.
The astral travel, do you feel when you're involved with one area and you're going off to another, does that pull you, say like a rubber band being pulled going two different directions at the same time?
No, not for me.
Not at all.
I mean, maybe it does for other people, but it doesn't for me. It's very smooth, very clear. I find it very interesting because if I'm sitting here talking to you and I start to travel off, part of me goes, oh, I wonder what I'm going to be doing next while I'm still having a conversation here. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
Very
Here's
good.
another question. This is from Bluebird, who's asking, are these beings all inside of our solar system? And have they shown you any maps of where they are situated in the night sky?
No, I don't get the maps, and probably good thing because I'm the most geographically challenged person you will ever meet in the world. So if they showed me a map, if they showed me a map, I'd be completely lost. How I see it, let me see how I can explain this. Okay. When I travel, there's different layers, different dimensions, different realms. So as I travel up and I travel out, I feel different things from here's energy, here's a dimension of oneness, here's a dimension where it's just vibration. And then above that, it's the different kind of, for lack of better terminology, places, spaces, galaxies, planets. And I get to see pieces of it and I get to feel pieces of it. But do I know where they are? No, I don't. I just know that sometimes when I travel, I'll see openings and portals, which I call the doors. And like I'm looking up right now because every time I travel, there's certain doors that I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to go up there. Let's go up there. And like I know the portals to go through. I know the doors to go through. And I use portals, not only, I can see the portals in the sky, but I use portals in people's bodies as well. So when my clients come in and someone they loved has died, or I say transitioned because we never fully die, people have different portals in their body. So I'm able to find the portals in their body and have them go through that portal out of this realm and reconnect with the person who's transitioned. That's one thing. When my clients are ready, because I don't do this as let me sign up and just see what it feels like to like go and travel. I don't do that. Everything I do is around helping people understand why they're here, how to deal with life's challenges, medical illnesses, traumas. I have them connect as to why they're going through the portal. So get them connected to the loved ones so they can have some completion, speak to them. They can always be with them, connect them to different soul families, connect them to different ETs. So, it's individual for each person, but I never have somebody come in the first time and say, okay, let me take you there because I really need to see, what's their foundation, because what I have learned and seen is most people do not know how to be in this three-dimensional human body. And when you meet people, they're either way out there and they're not grounded, or they're right up in their head and they're not grounded, or they're grounded, but they have no connection to outside of that. So I teach them how to be in three-dimensional form so they can understand this three-dimensional form, because they're supposed to live here in this form. And then from there, take them into the portals and have them journey and travel and guide them and lead them for what goes on. And then they have the experiences at the same time. And almost always those experiences are life-changing for them in many, many different ways, because I always bring it back to, what's the purpose? What's the healing? What do you need here in this lifetime? What do you need to understand to survive, to thrive? So if that makes sense.
Yes. Here's a question from Henry O. He's asking, is this all happening through inner dimensions and not necessarily through a linear travel to a distant star?
Ask me that again. Is this all happening through interdimension?
Interdimension, and not necessarily through a linear travel to a distant star. So he's asking, is it interdimensional rather than space travel?
Yeah. For me, it's interdimensional when I work with clients. Outside of that, it's both areas. But when I work with clients, it's definitely interdimensional.
You mentioned of helping them understand how to work with that. What would be the procedure of someone that wants to work in that direction?
Well, like I said, when somebody comes in, most of the time it's, what are they going through in their life? And because my specialty is trauma, I work with anybody who's, trauma is what I call in the eye of the beholder. So the three of us can be out in the street, see a car accident, and you two are just fine, but I'm completely decompensating because there's been multiple things in my life that triggered, and I personalized that trauma. Okay. So no matter what someone's going through, when they come in, it's kind of getting them connected to their physical form, their body first. That's first and foremost, and get grounded. And then from there, when they're ready, taking them through their portals in their body. And even, one more step before they go into the portals of their body is allowing them to go in their fluids, their organs, their musculoskeletal system, so their body can speak to them about what it's been holding in this lifetime and other lifetimes, because this tells the story. People think it's in the brain. The whole body tells the story of every second, every moment of what goes on. So when you get them into their body and have them connected to that and have the body tell the story in a loving way, they're becoming more connected three-dimensionally, and then they're ready to go into the portals to travel.
Now, Stryker is writing, like to know how to do these things that you're doing. Is this teachable to anyone? This is what you teach, right?
Yeah. And you know what?
So how can they get a hold of you? Give us your website so they can
yeah.
you.
I wish I had an easier last name to spell. So sorry about that. But
it's on the back of the book.
Yes. So it's go to paigevaldiserri.com, and that's PAIGE, V as in victory, AL, D as in dog, I, S as in Sam, ERRI.com. And just one more comment about that, Patricia, that I teach this to practitioners and lay people, because my whole thing is giving somebody self-empowerment so they can do it for themselves, and also integrating this into whatever holistic or alternative, form of medicine, that they're using with their patients and clients, because it's a big component.
It's
definitely.
Yeah. That's what I think. But if I were to go to a behavioral health conference and talk about the ETs and the interdimensionals and things like that, they would laugh me off the stage. They would. But behind closed doors, they want to know all about it, and they want to, be taught about it. And I know that you understand that. So I'm thrilled to have this opportunity tonight to be able to, talk more about this and how this works, with the world of healing and trauma and death and traveling and journeying. So
yeah, because it's not just this black and white reality. There's so much more. And that's what we know about on the show, where paranormal is normal. But I got a bit of a rant. With the ETs. And let me tell you why.
Yeah.
I'm going to rant now.
Rant.
Go ahead, sweetheart. You can do it.
All right. Here's the deal. They always say, at least this is the excuse they give, when some people ask for help, and they've had an experience with the ETs, and they say, but I have failing health. Will you help me? Oh, no, I can't help you because we can't interfere. It's like, hang on a second, Buster. You're taking our cows and cutting them into little pieces. You are abducting people, some from our national parks that we never see again. And then you're going to turn around and say, oh, I can't interfere. Sorry. I don't buy it. I think it's like at their whim. It fits their agenda. And I think it is just BS. This nonsense that they tell people. Again, people that I know that have had serious illnesses. Our dear friend, Betty Andreassen's daughter, who we love with all our heart and miss terribly. They didn't help her. She asked for their help. And she had a direct line of connection to them. Oh, we can't interfere. So it's like, wait a second. I think we need to be cautious with the ETs. And as much as I feel a kinship with them, as you do.
Yeah.
Because of this. Because there is this talking out of both sides of the face. On the one hand, oh, I'm going to help you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But when somebody asks for help and it's serious, like even Carl last week.
Right.
When we asked, why doesn't he help you with your health problems?
Yeah.
We can't interfere. Again, I think it's baloney. I think it just fits whatever whim they have at the moment. Or, again, the prime directive from Star Trek, we all know about that. Don't interfere with the evolution of society. But there are things that they could do to help individuals who are suffering. And they many times refuse. So that's my rant. And I'd love to know what our audience thinks about that too.
That's a really good rant. If I can add to that.
Please do.
Yeah, to my rant.
Okay. So, yeah. So, I guess what I have found too is they will assist through another person sometimes by, how do I explain this? Like, for instance, when I'm here, they help to like magnify the role that I'm doing and magnify whatever it is that I'm doing. And I remember being in bed one night and I had horrible distension because I've had some stomach issues, things like that. And they showed up. Now, they never show up when my husband is in bed with me. If he's traveling, they show up. If he happens to have a fever and he's in another room, I'm in another room, so I don't, so we don't catch each other's illness, they show up. And it just so happens that this one time they showed up and there was a green light, very, very clear green light right at the top of the ceiling. And they were putting the green light right down on my belly. And I could clearly feel that this was all about supporting me, helping me do what I need to do, and helping my belly. And that night I slept really well. My belly felt really good the next day. So I have to say that I don't think it's all or nothing. I think there's pieces here and there. I don't know all the pieces, but I can just tell you some of the experiences that I have. And then I can also say, with doing past life regressions with people all the time, especially with, sicknesses, the question, do sometimes we get our sickness, because this is what I found, because I work a lot with illness. Sometimes we need to get illnesses to wake up and understand more of our journey because we're not getting it. Sometimes we need to get the attention, and sometimes it comes through medical illness, it comes through injury, for us to wake up and pay attention to whatever the journey is here. If something else interferes, whether it be an ET, a helper, an angel, whatever it might be, it takes away the journey that they came here to do. Is that for everyone? Does it happen that way for everyone? No, because each one of us comes from somewhere, and this is individual. So, but it's just been my experience that when people get these medical illnesses, there's something that they have to experience, something that they have to learn. So sometimes you can't step in and shift and change that particular journey, whatever it might be. Because it's not only their journey.
That's a good explanation. Yeah, and I understand that. And I agree that there are, the medical situations and the symptoms are the body telling us, giving us messages. But there's something that bothers me greatly about the fact that they interfere all the time. But they don't interfere for what we see as human as the highest good of a person's illness that they're struggling with. That may be so, but again, to sit there and say we're not allowed to interfere. And again, I'm going to go back to all the people that we're missing out of our national parks, and I don't know if you know about this.
Yes, I do, actually.
They're taken, they're gone, goodbye. They're out of their families forever. They're gone. Their families are frantic, searching for them all over these damn parks. Can't find hide or hair of them. They're gone. That's interfering. So
how do you not know that them being gone isn't they were part of that ET society, and that was part of what was supposed to happen?
In essence, they went home.
It's quite possible, except that when I went searching for some of them with another medium, what we found was very discouraging and very horrible.
100% of the time, though?
We only did it for 2 of the people.
Right.
And it was a very, very disappointing experience in terms of what these entities were using these people for.
And I'm sure that happens.
That does happen. Yeah. It's like that's interference. I'm sorry. It's interference when they take somebody's horses and again, do what they do. That is interference. So again, I understand what you're saying, and I agree. We all have our journey, and we come in here with some of us with some contracts, and we're supposed to go through A, B, and C. I understand that, but there's tremendous interference from the ETs. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is interference.
Yeah, don't. It is interference. Yeah, no. I just know that nothing's black and white, even the interference. There's some bad things that happen, and there are some helpful things that happen. Excuse me, but yes, I agree.
It makes you wonder.
It's very interesting, isn't it, PK? I find it fascinating.
It is fascinating because it's coming from so many different directions. When you and I originally talked, Paige, you really weren't too thrilled about talking about this subject and such. We wanted to concentrate a lot more on the lovely book that you wrote. And in the book, one of the things that you talked about was asking to be taught about death. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is something that people need to pay more attention to because they have no concept. Mm-hmm. And so in your book, you cover so many different aspects because of what you've been through or the people you've worked with have been through, that it opens doors to questions that we probably didn't really think about before. Who would have thought to want to learn about death?
Yeah, it's, death and ETs are taboo in this world. They kind of go together. Let's not talk about the ETs, and we're not going there with death.
That's right.
And guess what? They kind of go together sometimes.
How do they go together? That's interesting. I haven't heard that before. How do they go together?
Well, let me share with you, Patricia, how they go together. Some instances, again, nothing's black and white. Some instances of when I transitioned people, who shows up for them? Yes, sometimes their angels show up for them, their helpers show up for them, those who had transitions shows up for them, and sometimes the ETs show up for them. So it all depends on who's showing up, the time of the transition, and where they go. So sometimes death and ETs do go together. And there's a curiosity with ETs too about this functionality of death in human form. Because some of these ETs have never been in human form. Some have, but a lot of times, they forget that component. So there's always a big curiosity with them as well, along with when someone's transitioning and they're connected to the ETs and maybe they're supposed to go back to their specific society with the ETs, they'll show up and they'll show up in a very, I've seen a couple things. Loving way and another way of, all right, come on, let's go, time to go. It's that same kind of all right, time to go. Forcefulness of, we need to get you back here. We need to do, X, Y, and Z. We need to find out, all that you've learned. So I've seen a couple different things that way. And when we talk about death, like I said, we don't talk about ETs, we don't talk about death. And with death, we need to talk about death more because death is not death. And we need to be able to start to normalize, what goes on with death and not have this terrible fear of death and where we go. And think of everybody you've had on your show, okay? Where we all talk about different places that we've been and who we are. And if we get that message out there and how that connects with death, I'm hoping that people whose loved ones are about to transition or someone who is about to transition themselves won't have that same kind of anxiety about, well, where am I going? What's going to come next? Because you're going to go somewhere. You're not just going to be, stuck in the earth.
Well, with the transition I went through with my mother and my husband, etc., the feeling of the visitations they were getting shortly before they left. And that in itself was quite an eye-opener for me. Although I believed in a lot of things, I didn't realize to what extent that people would be going through these things.
Yeah. And that's, I just think it's important to share that.
Well, don't you think people are coming to have another view of it because there's been so much now with mediums in our media? Right. We have these wonderful mediums that are helping people communicate, and it is changing, I think.
It is
the
changing.
shape of it.
It is changing, but I can tell you it's not changing enough yet because when I deal with anybody with death, or I work with hospice nurses or train hospice doctors about stuff, it's the same thing. They hear the same thing of the families don't want to talk about the death until it's absolutely imminent. And what happens is, I try and teach them is you have to have a conversation with your loved one or with the patient of, have you thought about death? What's going on in your mind about death? And the biggest question is, do you want to be here anymore? Is there something or someone pulling you from another place or space that you're feeling? And we don't ask those questions, and doctors don't ask those questions to open the door for people to share, because there's so much that needs to be shared.
We're going to have to take another short commercial break, everybody, and we are going to continue this fascinating conversation with Paige Valdiserri, who is the author of a book called The Red Bag. And we are going to There it is, right there. Beautiful book. And you are listening to Supernatural Girlz Radio, everybody. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to Supernatural Girlz Radio. I'm your host, Patricia Baker. I am here with my co-host, PK, and our wonderful guest tonight, Paige Valdiserri. She's talking about her experiences with ETs, interdimensionals, healing, all kinds of great stuff that we love to talk about on our show. And so
Definitely.
we're thrilled to have you here, Paige.
I'm thrilled to be here. It's great to be in a place
fun.
where I can talk about this stuff.
That's right. This is a safe place, a very safe place. So we've got one question I did want to get to, if that's all right, from the chat room.
Absolutely.
I know you have other things to discuss tonight with everybody. This is from Tall White. He's asking a very good question. Okay. What about the reports of malevolent beings? Is it possible that the ones who appear nice are concealing an ulterior motive?
Yes. I've actually had a couple clients come in who had that experience, and this is what I've seen with it. The clients who I've seen who've had that experience are clients who are very disconnected with themselves. And so what I have seen and what I believe in is the more connected you are to your inner knowing and wisdom, the more you will be able to tell if something is malevolent or something is benevolent. So in human form, that's why I'm always about, you got to get connected to your three-dimensional self. Does that mean that you'll get fooled sometimes? Yeah, absolutely. But the more connected you are with your inner knowing and wisdom, the less that you will be able to get sucked into that, because let's face it, they go for people whose spines, and I mean physical spines, are very weak. And we know that from Chinese medicine, a lot of our emotions are in the spine. Mm-hmm. So if people aren't connected and dealing with that, they go up through the spine is one way as well too. So that's another way that they can get there. But if you're not connected and you're not working on your stuff, I was going to say another word. If you're not working on your stuff, it's easy to get pulled into something because you're not seeing the flags. You're not really, listening, because it's going to tell you.
You're not feeling your own wholeness, so it makes it your target.
And let's think about this. The more fractured that, exactly, that's a good one, target on your back. The more fractured you are within yourself, the more cracks that they have to be able to go within there.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so I hope that answered his question.
I'm sure that's a great answer. Yes.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. When we were talking earlier about the book, the young lady in the book called Allison, would you like to talk about her a little bit?
Yeah, just a little bit. Allison was a client of mine who transitioned at the age of 28 from triple-negative breast cancer. And the reason why we're bringing this up, it's not so much ET related at one point, but everybody in the audience has either known someone who's died, who's someone about to die, or they're worried about their own death. And, when she transitioned, I, again, had taught her family how to help her transition, because even her soul needed a different way. And she had beings from other dimensions coming in to assist her as well. And the interesting part, outside of her hospital room, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, I can't remember, 3 or 4 beings that had died, that were humans who had died in the hospital and never found a way out. So as they watched Allison transitioning and her family being taught how to do it, a few of them had said to me, well, can you help me transition from the hospital so I can go back to my home or back to my planet? So I would help them to do that. And then the other 2 said, we don't want to go. We're here because we want to help the energy of what's going on with the people who are dying, and we want to work with the doctors that are here. So, some could be hybrids, some not, but it just goes to show you there's so many different forms of how, someone goes out, how someone goes in. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is, Allison continues to work through me and helping me with my clients and being able to give messages. So it helps people in human form here know this is just not it. You're not going to die. You're just going to die from your flesh. You're going to go someplace else, wherever that might be, whatever your next journey is. So I just wanted to say that so people realize that, hey, they come back, they talk, and that's why I want to normalize death and normalize the ETs. And if I can say one thing about the ETs, and I'm trying not to be political here, but this is coming up for me to say. So when the election occurred, the ETs were ready to really come in a much more stronger form. And we need here on this earth kind of mediators to have the ETs speak with politicians, to have the ETs speak with human form here. And if Hillary had won, they would have been here in a much more stronger form. Since Hillary lost, there's a whole different vibe that goes on that they can't get into the same level and way that they could have gotten in if Hillary had won the presidency. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard that.
Because Hillary
before.
was such a criminal. She's a criminal. Why
But
would they
here's-
want to come and talk? Because she's the leader of our country.
Because Hillary was open, she wanted to open up the files more about the ETs and
What
share
she
more
said,
of the
but you really
experiences.
believe that? I don't believe it for a second.
No, I do. There's some insight that I have with people very close with her politically who I've spoken with. This was like a year and a half ago because I had asked questions about this because I'd heard that same thing. And I was like, okay, is this for real or is she just saying this? But behind closed doors, the people who were who knew her had said to me, yes, she wanted to start opening it up. I don't know the reason why.
She could make more money out of it.
Whatever it might
I mean, seriously, that everything that they've done has been channeled in that direction,
You're right.
unfortunately.
But if it would able us to actually have more of an integration for the
That
greater
would have been
good of
nice.
all,
That would have been nice.
that would be nice. But there are going to be mediators here in this world who are going to help the ETs work with us more here.
Right. What do you see about the opening of the informational highway, shall we say, where the ETs are concerned, considering where we are right now in the world?
I think there's more people like the three of us who are being able to open and get the messages and bring it out more to light, more than there ever has been before. And the more that, again, we normalize this, like we normalize death, this will become, hopefully we won't see it in human form in our lifetime in this world, but it will get to a point where they're just going to be here living amongst us. They already are, but we'll be able to see that.
Aren't always aware of it. Okay,
Yeah.
let me ask another question.
They already are. We know that. But you know, it's a fascinating conversation to have about. You see, I don't know, Paige, if I really would want the ETs to spend more time with our politicians. I don't trust any of them. I would like them to spend more time
with
you, for example. You're a good emissary.
But it would be mediators.
Right.
But remember, there would be mediators. And think of it now, like you, Patricia, you, PK, and myself, we are to the point now when if we're going to be mediating, we're also going to be sharing. We're not going to keep this to ourselves. We are going.
I think that's where they should. If I could make an opinion known globally, it would be that. It would be, why not come and talk to the people, like they're doing with you? Why not have those experiences? Because our leadership, they are not what we deserve.
And that's why they are coming and speaking to me and being on your show.
To you. So I love that.
Well, the reason why they're doing that too is, think about it. It's a lot easier to mediate, get the messages through people like us so we can share it versus them having to do it behind closed doors where the military goes, oh, we're not doing this, we're not doing this.
So it's to stop. That's of all of that.
It is, and it's going to get to.
Jenny had a dream of joining the national bobsled team. She worked out relentlessly and knew that if she just refused to give up, one day her dream would come true and she'd stand triumphantly up on the podium. But when her kids reminded her that she was 52 and she lived in Texas, and maybe she started dreaming this dream a little late in life, she gave up on not giving up. But then she heard how Geico could save her money on car insurance, so she switched and achieved that dream instead.
It's going to get to a point where there's more people like us that are going to be sharing, that the politicians won't have the same kind of power. And that's what the world will eventually come to, where things are going to shift and change.
That. I think you're right, because we're seeing that now. We have no confidence in the media, no confidence in Congress. We have come into our own, I think, more and more. It's like the things that you teach people about self-empowerment. We're now seeing a lot of that happening because all of our icons are falling, even celebrities. Now you see all of the stuff going on in Hollywood. All the celebrity worship is coming.
Now look, they ruined it.
But that's what it's supposed to be.
Exactly. It's one
But let me
Masks
ask you
are
a question,
coming
Paige.
off.
Since you're able to communicate with them as well as you do, and so many of them are aware. No, what I'm saying is you, and there's so many others that do. They have information all over that's available. Can't they flip the switch and make it finally come out where people get?
That's what's so frustrating is as fast as they want things from us and come on. Like on the flip side, I'll say to them, okay, you want things fast from me? Well, then bring on the things, that you know for me too. Let's go two-way.
Right.
But what I attribute a piece of that is that there's this, how could I say that? It's kind of like you're speaking to someone who's from another country speaking a different language. Until we can get on the same page, no pun intended, and be able to get connected to our way of speaking with people vibrationally, frequency, and having an understanding, it's going to take time for that to happen on both sides.
Yeah,
well, I got to share the story that John D'Souza told us. Remember John, former FBI?
Yeah.
He was talking about Antarctica, and about what's going on down there.
Yes.
So John was telling us about John Kerry flew down there to have a little powwow with one of the big honcho beings down there. The reason he went is to try to get their help in getting Hillary elected. And they didn't think much of John Kerry. They sent him home, and the message they gave to him was as wheels went up on his plane in New Zealand, there was a huge earthquake. And the message was, don't ever come back. We don't want you. So as much as you've heard one story, we've heard the exact opposite.
Right.
They
And that's
didn't
what's so
want
good.
John Kerry, and they didn't want Hillary. They didn't want any of that, and they refused to help him. But there's that. But there's also, with Hillary's husband, he was the least knowledgeable about the whole extraterrestrial thing. He was not briefed like so many other presidents, and you have to wonder why. They obviously didn't trust him enough to give him that kind of information. So when she said she was willing to open the files, I just laughed because I knew how they open what files. They're not going to give her access because, as you well know, it's not the president who has the highest security clearance.
That's very true.
It's not. Anyways, I just have to share that. I know we all have different
opinions. I'm glad you did.
That's fine. But, again, I have to share with what's happened on our show with John Holcomb in his book about presidents and UFOs. And he came on and said that president they didn't trust enough to give the information to.
And that's why if you think about, like we just had, a mid-election, 2 nights ago?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And you're seeing different people getting into election from different ethnicities to different genders and transgenders. And I believe that as different people get in who aren't like how we've been before, because Pandora's box had to be open.
Oh, definitely.
And Pandora's box was open, so we can kind of get, it had to be. And that's how change happens. And that's also a part how the ETs, when I say politicians, it doesn't mean the politicians now. It might mean a few of them who are more open, but that's how things start. It starts small. It starts with people like us. It starts with politicians that are in there who are going to be open.
You're right. And I think that's where the change is going to be.
Yeah,
because I'm watching, as you, I'm sure, are watching closely with your clients and your patients and your friends. I mean, you're seeing this shift in consciousness where people are turning more inward. And they want to get the answers inside. And that's perfect. That's what you train them to do. That's what you teach them to do with all of what you know. And that's the benefit. We need to be self-empowered. We need to stop listening, to this tra-la-la out here that's just basically
the fake news. Every station's talking about fake news.
Well,
is there any real news anymore?
It's the fear, too. Yeah. It's the fear that goes on. And that's why, normalizing ETs, normalizing death. So the fear is down. And what happens when you normalize both, then a person's energy and their frequency level goes up, and they're more able to get in touch and go, okay, wait a minute. What are my gifts? What are we supposed to be here? Let me connect with the other realms outside of here. So, it's a very simple message. It's nothing that's too complex. But that's what I've seen through my travels.
I think it's great.
Oh, yes,
Don't you?
definitely.
I think it's fabulous
Yeah.
to give people this kind of information, to do what you're doing, to normalize it so people aren't afraid of it, so they can reach out and have contact, whether it be with ETs, interdimensionals, or friends, like your friend Allison who passed over. I mean, you're bringing all of this to the forefront in a very friendly, amicable way where people can be comfortable.
Yeah, and that's a big thing
Terrific.
because I work in different realms. What I mean by realms, from populations,
Yes.
I should say, populations, whether it's military, government, countries. And because I've been able to work in different countries and different land, little by little, I'm able to open the door, to plant the seeds and integrate what I'm doing to help with the violence that's going on, but opening the doors to normalizing stuff. So I might not see it all happen. I might get frustrated here and there, but at least I'm getting somewhat of an opportunity to do that, on a global level.
It's tremendous.
Well, when we were talking a little bit ago about Allison in the book, but I did want to make reference to the book. In the book, you mention about your travels, and you're taking your bag from space to space, and you'll be overloaded, overtired, and all of a sudden someone comes along and picks up your red bag. That has happened so many times to you. I think that's something that we need to share with others, because they don't realize that. As I'm reading the book and going through it, I've come to the conclusion that that red bag is carried many times by others that are not of our time and place, that have come to assist you.
Yes, and I won't give away too terribly much, but yes, it's called the red bag, connecting the connecting the journey of healing through life, death, and beyond. Right. And it's a metaphor, but it's not a metaphor.
But it's a perfect book to look for.
But that is my actual red bag that has traveled through terrorist attacks, violent stuff, and
it survives. It keeps surviving.
Well, the big thing is human beings pick it up, but they're not always human beings. That's it's a big
point I wanted you to bring.
Yes, so it's a big component of we're not alone when we're struggling in human form, and we're frustrated, and we're sad, and we're angry, and we just feel isolated. This book will show you and give you more than hope, and have you look at what's your red bag look like, and who's picking it up. Because guess what? The ETs are picking it up too, and the angels are picking it up too, and the helpers are picking it up too. They might look in human form, but they're not always in human form.
That's it.
And that's comforting,
Yeah.
Isn't that comforting?
It was such a feel good. As I've read the book, all of a sudden it was that aha moment. You know what? You don't realize it, and all of a sudden it's so blatantly in your face. You go, oh my God, everyone is stepping up to the plate to help you, because you're helping everyone else.
And that's like, we're all doing that when we're so overwhelmed and tired and fatigued, and we don't know if we can go one more step. Somebody steps in whatever form they step in to say, hold on, I'm going to help carry that bag for you. So be on the lookout for who steps in, ET, angel, human form, helper, however it might be. Right. It's so important. And that's how we normalize. There's that word again. It's how we normalize things that are going on that have always gone on since the world became the world.
Yeah, that's what we like, don't we?
It's definitely a feel good. It's definitely a feel good.
Yeah, it's important, I think, to be able to encompass all of these different beings and realms. They're here. We all know that. I mean, everybody who listens to this show knows they're real, and they're here, whether we're talking about Bigfoot or we're talking about Dogman or Mothman, or they're here. We've had credible reports and experiences, and how exciting all of that is. So it's an interesting part of life, and it should be all part of the same paradigm, and that's what we need. It's a paradigm that includes that.
Yeah, and the interesting part is, it is a part of the paradigm. There's just many who don't know it yet, or they've forgotten it, or they can't see it, but it's already part of the paradigm. It's just not out front. The way we feel it, know it, and see it being out front.
Well, and it's like we were talking about in my backyard, the feeling that you get with different, and not realizing how much more. I've tunnel vision. I look straight in the backyard. Never thought that all of this is still totally around. not just in one space. It's moving around us every day. Every store we walk in, every person that we bump into, what's being passed as we pass each other.
Yeah, that's very
Interesting.
True, PK.
Yeah. Here's another question from Redstone. I think we have time for this one. Do you believe we should not have any reason to fear an encounter from any entity?
I don't think I can say 100% that I believe that we should not fear that, because I don't think I know everything in human form. So I couldn't answer that to say that. I can say my journey here, because of my specific role and who I'm connected with interdimensionally, I have a different slant and experience of what I've experienced that has been for the positive, because that's been where I've come from, what I'm doing here, but that could be very different for someone else. I'm a big component of putting strong boundaries down for when these entities come, getting connected to your inner knowing and wisdom, being connected to the emotions that your spleen holds, because that's how they kind of sift through there as well too. So if you're doing your work, it'll be much easier for you to connect to them on a different basis where fear is not it. And when you put it down, I have no time for this, this, and this. I'm not going to take that type of behavior. I'm not going to take that type of violence. You go somewhere else, but you're not going here, because this is my purpose here. This is my journey here. So again, you have to be three-dimensional being, human being, connected to your shit. Hope I can say that on air. And
you did.
Why not?
Okay.
Yeah, get connected to your feelings and emotions, so you can step into this in a different way. You decide and tell them, this is how it's going to look, and this is what I need. And they decide, what they're going to do. But when you're strong about it, they kind of back off. Because guess what? It's like anybody. In human form, don't the bullies and the narcissists take advantage of the fragile people? Well, the ETs, if they want to get through to somebody, they're going to look for someone they can get in their spine, someone who's fractured, someone who's more vulnerable, someone who's not too strong. Right. That's a much easier target, even though I hate to use the word target because I feel them in a very different way. But, it's...
But it's still...
still an analogy of how that can occur.
Yes,
makes
exactly.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So let's give out your website again. Okay, so people who want to learn how to do this, or who have some type of trauma and need the help. Yes, and we got to look at the book again. So again, your website is paigevaldiserri.com. Right. And you want to spell that out for everybody?
Yeah, and I think you have my name on your website too, but I'll spell it out. It's PAIGE, V as in victory, AL, D as in dog, I, S as in Sam, ERRI.com. See how many times I've had to say that in my lifetime?
Yes.
I have it down.
I changed my name.
No, I love my name.
No, I'm teasing you, honey.
It's a beautiful name. So now let's go the whole title of the book again.
Okay, so the title is The Red Bag, Connecting the Journey of Healing Through Life, Death, and Beyond.
Definitely. Okay, there you go. So it's available on Amazon.com. It's available on your website.
Yeah, it's available on Amazon. It's available on my website, and it's also available at redbagpress.com. Redbagpress.com.
So everybody can get it there. And then next week, I'm going to announce we have our dear friend on, don't we? We have Patrice Chaplin. She's coming back to talk about Lucifer. I cannot wait to hear what she has to say about Lucifer. This is going to be a fire and brimstone show. I can just feel it. So be sure to tune in for that. And also, everybody, be sure to go to The Real Zombie Plague on Facebook and just type in any questions you might have about Lyme disease or autoimmune disease. We will ask them about on your behalf. We will ask them of the practitioner, Robert Abatello, who is going to be pre-recorded for our show. We will do that Friday. It will air November 22nd, and then it will be archived, as all our shows are. So, everybody, what an exciting night, Paige. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having a platform for people to talk about this and share and connect and experience. I mean, it's really, it's very, very important.
Thank you.
It is.
Thank you. We love doing it. We love having you on the show. So keep in touch with us. And everybody, until next week, we'll see you on the Blue Highway. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.